Hello, listeners. This is Get to Know an RSO on 89.1 WIDR FM. My name is Dan, and today I have Cully Cooper, General Manager of WIDR, here to tell you a little bit more about us. So what's up, Cully? How you doing? How you been?
I'm doing so well, Dan. It is so good to be here in the studio with you. Thanks for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I know you're quite familiar with the old studio. How are you feeling about it now that we're going to be moving out soon?
You know, it's bittersweet. We've been in this studio since the 70s, and by we, I mean all of 89.1 WIDR FM. I believe we moved in the early 70s, so the current station and studio and office has been here for more than 40, 50 years now, which is extremely impressive, and it's definitely aged. So it's bittersweet in that I'm happy to leave and be in the forefront, but, you know, there's something about being in the dingy, dirty basement away from everything else that is undeniably part of the tradition of college radio.
I mean, some traditions are meant to be broken, you know what I mean?
Without a doubt. The worst part about the station, I guess I'll be very brief, is that we're located in an unattainable location. It would be impossible for students to get here, and so now we're moving into the only location students actually want to be on campus, and so I'm very excited for our new digs at the new student center.
Exactly, and I've seen the new place too. It's pretty spiffy looking.
I have actually been inside, Daniel, and it is a beautiful space, and we are extremely privileged and blessed to have such a wonderful space to, oh my gosh, fertilize everybody's ears with some of the best broadcasting you've ever heard.
So I guess, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? What do you do at Western? What's your major?
Yeah, so my name is Cully. At Western, I am a film major. I'm studying film and media arts. I think a lot of what I am very passionate about in there is I like documentaries. I really like storytelling. I like community building. I like finding out kind of like every individual stories of real people. But I cannot deny, Dan, that I love my fiction and my fantasy, and I do love telling just weird, wonderful, and wacky stories. And I think I'm able to do that with a camera, and obviously half a film is audio, and, you know, that's why I'm here. And so I think I just love audio, media, and video, and creation of mediums. And so being able to, you know, tell my story is something I'm a big fan of. I love artistic expression in any means. I love genre and theme and style a lot. I like to be able to emulate that in my work. And I just like to be able to really express myself.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Do you think that affects your personal life or like any aspects of it? I mean, I know you like to do a little bit of dungeon mastering. If
you know, I'm glad you brought that up. And I guess if this is just get to know RSO, but also get to know, you know, the people behind
people
it.
who make them up and the leadership.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'll talk about that a little bit. But yes, I do love my tabletop role playing games. I lead a weekly. We try to be weekly, but I've been a little busy this summer. But a weekly game of a original role playing game I created with my friends. It's sort of based off D&D, but it's a rule system that we sort of started from the ground up. Still based off a D20 roll. So if you're familiar with those games, everything sort of centers around dice are made of chance. There's a dice with 20 sides. That's usually like the core dice. This also has that sort of core D20 system. I love that I'm talking about this during my WIDR interview. It's definitely a lot of fun, and I find that engages my creativity in such a unique way. There's nothing like goofing off with your friends in a world like that. And I love like fantasy and not just like wizards and warlocks and stuff. I mean, that stuff is golden. I mean, I'm there for that always, but anything weird, wacky, and wonderful, whimsical maybe, big fan. Absolutely.
Awesome. It definitely shows in your personality a little bit, which I think is one of the reasons why it's so fun to be able to work at WIDR and be able to, a lot of radio is telling a story, even if it's not necessarily a drama or whatnot. A DJ set, you could consider that a story in some ways.
Public interest stuff, exactly like that. I find even the most interesting stories, and like the ones that DJs will be telling, are the human stories. They're like this, I don't know, like this girl raised up enough money to get her coach all the money he needed for his heart surgery thing. Like that's beautiful. Like obviously that's pretty kitschy and as an example, and it's just off the top of my head. But when it's real and it's told in a way as it's like this is truth, and this is humans helping each other, there is something quite magical there. And yeah, like you said, like radio is this medium of voices and storytelling, and we can kind of like give off these things. So I'm just very happy that I've sort of found a home here, and I, especially as in a leadership role here, I can use that sort of want to tell really good stories to help direct the station towards that as well.
Mm-hmm. So I know you went over a little bit. I know you went over it a little bit earlier, but can you tell us a little bit more about what drew you to WIDR initially?
Absolutely, yeah. I actually have it's a funny story. My first instance here, because like kind of a harken back to like this building is impossible to find. My first time coming here, what interested me was I was like, oh, campus radio station? Okay, what? Like that alone, I was like, I think that's what interested me. I'm not, or I think I wouldn't consider myself a music nerd then. I think WIDR's probably made me a music nerd. But I wasn't particularly interested in music. I wasn't a radio kid. I don't even have my license currently, so I'm not listening to the radio in the car by any means. So it wasn't anything like that. I'm not even into advertising or anything like that. It truthfully was like I was a theater kid growing up too, and so I was just like any form of like public speaking. I think I was just kind of like looking for an outlet to do something like that. And I truthfully, and it's kind of interesting now, I was in some playwriting classes, and I wanted to do audio sketches and skits. And it's just funny that like a year later, that's what we're doing now, but like as a full production.
Exactly.
It is very cool.
Full circle.
Yeah. Like, that's awesome. But like that's kind of what I was looking into, and so I was like, oh, campus radio station. So I followed them on Instagram, but I didn't really do much beyond that. And then I saw that they were doing a movie night in which they were showing Psycho Gorman, which was it's to this day one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, which was hilarious. And so I walked down to Fonts Student Services. Like I had to find it on campus, but I had.
Did they at least put up signs?
Dude,
like
no. Like dude, like I had to grind to find this building, but it was like the day before I had just walked all around campus to find it. And dude, like I learned my entire freshman year, I walked everywhere on campus I could find anything. But I walk into the building, it's open. It does not usually open that late, so I'm surprised I got in. I'm just like walking around. I'm like, where am I right now? This is terrible. Like I'm gonna go back, but I was like, I'll do one run of the like walk down the hallway. If you've been to Fonts, you know what I mean. Like the entire hallway that stretches from the entire bottom floor, and I go past the WIDR office and nobody's in there, and I'm like, great. So I'm like, you know what? While I'm down here and the office is open, maybe I'll walk around, and I probably have the thought like maybe I'll gank some stuff, like if there's some like office snacks or some pens. Like I'll just like if the office is open and I'm here, but then I hear like voices. And I'm walking around and I peer through the glass like screen partition in the Western Herald door, and I see two people, and I'm not going to name names, but they were pretty lovey-dovey on the couch. And I realized that I was the third one there to show up for this movie night. I was like, okay, I'm 5 minutes early. So, and I could see that there's a projector. So I was like, okay, I'm at the movie night. And I was like, I'm at the campus radio station because there's two people getting a little lovey-dovey on this public couch. So I waited like 5 minutes, and then I see like 4 more people come in, and it's like the WIDR director's crew, and it looks like they had sort of settled in. And I think it was me and one other person were like the only other volunteers there. Yeah, and so I sat down, and I was like just watching the movie and enjoyed it, and then. I think at this time, I had applied for the promotions assistant gig, or like the job. And so I was like, hey, by the way, I applied for that job. And they were like, oh, you're Cully. And I was like, yeah. And so I talked to them, I showed my face. I'm sure that helped. And then like a week later, I had the interview, and I got the job as promotion assistant at WIDR. So I hadn't even DJ'd yet. I wasn't even a volunteer. I had just applied. I think I had a great interview, and I really said why I thought I deserved the position and what I would do, and I got involved. And what I liked about promotions too is I'm really big into graphic design too. So that was I just wanted to I'll design posts. Absolutely, that sounded like a blast to me, and that's what I did for a year, and that was awesome.
Well, if there's anyone who's interested in joining WIDR that is listening to this, what would you suggest they do to get involved?
You can join 89.1 WIDR FM a myriad of ways. I recommend going to widrfm.org, going to our volunteer tab. It's under more and then volunteer. There's also a monkey on the home screen. If you click him, he'll take you to the volunteer page on the bottom of the homepage. You can also just email me being like, hey, I want to volunteer, and then you can come in during my office hours. So WIDR-GM at WMICH.edu. .edu. You can email me there, but I recommend just going to the WIDR website, and there's a volunteer tab right there. And right now, most of our volunteer procedures are like, come in the studio, let's kind of get you trained up, let's start a show. But right now, we're probably going to have to halt some stuff as we move over to the new studio, and we're going to be starting up again big time come like late August, early September. 89.1 WIDR FM is our student-run campus radio station. You can get involved in our production departments, our music review departments. You can help write for our radio dramas if you're interested in something like that. We've got a lot of opportunities, but really all I gotta say is download the app, listen on the app, get the WIDR app as soon as possible. Check us out in the new studio. Check out the latest WIDR tale. Its name's escaping me, but it'll be on and we'll be promoting it. But that's our audio dramas. We got great DJ shows. Always play alternative music. Love your local community and eat good food. Stay healthy, people. Love to all. That's all I really gotta say.
You heard it from the general manager, only from 89.1 WIDR FM. Thank you for listening to this episode of Get to Know an RSO. And come back soon to learn about more ways to get involved on campus at Western Michigan University.